Neri, he looked absolutely spectacular. Yeah, so we'll have to see if he's going to have to, if he can stay at that weight. And he is one of the two mandatories for Ubali, who is the WBC, Nordin Ubali, who is the WBC bantamweight champion. He has, since it was a vacant title, he's going to have to do Ubali's two defenses, and one of them is Neri. So we'll see if he's going to do that or if he's going to want to move up. He's a very good fighter. It's the first time fighting here in the United States, and I think the way he fought against a very, very good opponent, very good fighter. I think the way he fought, he gained a lot of fans. So that's great for us here in the U.S. to finally see Luis Neri. Chris Arreola looked spectacular again. I think he is going to give it another run. It was a great card. I think it was a very entertaining card, and the crowd we had here, I think it was like 48,000, but it looked like 80,000. These Dallas fans, they sure know how to throw a party and come and cheer on their people, and I think we had a great crowd here. Everybody left happy, and us as the promoters, we had a great time as well. I think Jerry Jones is an unbelievable host, and we love to come back here. I think there's so many great fights, and the fact that with Errol Spence now, you guys here from Dallas, you have the new pound-for-pound king from right here. I mean, the best fighter in the world comes from Dallas. And so I'm sure you're all going to see much more from Errol Spence here in Dallas. And the fact is, when you want to put together big events, you need a strong B side as well. You need basically two A sides, and that's what we have. Errol Spence is in a perfect weight class, is in the deepest weight class. There's so many great fights that can be done at welterweight. So many great and exciting fights. It's a long list. And, Errol Spence is not afraid to challenge anyone. The question is, are the opponents afraid to challenge Errol Spence? I mean, he had difficulty finding opponents going into this fight, and Mikey Garcia had the balls to stand up and say, hey, I'm going to challenge you. And I think with this performance tonight, Errol Spence didn't make it much easier on himself to find opponents.
Richard, some people may think Spence is the best welterweight, a lot of other people think Crawford is. Would you go that route? Can you see any way that we could see a Crawford-Spence fight this year?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be this year. I mean, the fact is there's so many other great, to be honest, I want to call it the way it is. There's so many great fights which can be made under the PBC umbrella with other welterweights, whether there is a Keith Thurman, there's a Sean Porter, there's a Manny Pacquiao. I mean, there's a long list of other fighters which, these fights could be made very easily. But I think at one point a Crawford fight will probably happen, will have to happen. And, what I think we saw tonight with Errol Spence, and that's why I say he's not just the best welterweight, but I think he's the best fighter in the world now, because what we've seen tonight is he didn't win that fight with size or with power. He won that fight with skills. And we all saw that if it comes down to the skills, that Mikey Garcia is going to be the one who would win the fight based on skills. But tonight, based on skills, Errol Spence won that fight. It was absolutely beautiful to watch this combination and his display of skills. I have hardly seen anything like it.
Just to follow up on that one time, how big do you think a Spence-Crawford fight would be if we assume Crawford would be Amir Khan? I mean, how big of a fight is that? Is that a million-plus fight, or is it too early for that?
I think it would be a big fight, but I don't think it would be as big as a fight between Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao, for example.
Richard, let me ask you, Richard. As far as the Fox platform, I mean, there was tons and tons of advertising. From what I'm hearing, there was great sales on the pay-per-views from the early numbers. How satisfied were you in regards to the advertising, as well as in the future? Do we expect Fox to be a major player as far as the pay-per-view platform with a lot of the PBC fighters?
Well, I think the biggest story in sport in 2019 is not the emergence of these premium, of these subscription platforms. The biggest is that Fox entering the pay-per-view business and Fox entering the boxing market the way they have done, they were not just like tiptoeing their toes in the water. No, they jumped head on, full in, and we've seen that in this promotion. And I think the way they look at it, the ratings they are getting are very strong for the boxing telecast, for their shoulder programming. So they're excited because they see a return. And I think when they're going to see the return from this pay-per-view, which early on it looks extremely strong, they have done a terrific job. And to have a free over-the-air network promoting, marketing a pay-per-view is historic, and that was the first one. And I think there are going to be many, I know there are going to be many more to come. They've done a terrific job.
Richard, I imagine Mikey would want to come back fight after this, but when that's finished, do you think we could get a Lomachenko-Garcia fight going forward?
Well, we'll have to see with Mikey. I think that's a question you're going to need to ask him. But I just want to say, Mikey, really, man, the guy showed balls. I mean, this is like, one of those situations where you go and not just in boxing, in any walk of life, you go and reach for the stars, you dare to be great, but you have to try because you never know what happens if you don't try. And he tried, and he came up short, but he tried. And because of that, I think he is Mikey and will always be Mikey, always be a 4-division world champion. And I think he has a tremendous and bright career ahead of him. Tonight it didn't go his way, but he's the kind of fighter we all want to see again because he's exciting and he goes for it.
Richard, you said that you thought the Pacquiao Spence fight would be bigger than Spence Crawford. Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, because Pacquiao is bigger than Crawford. I mean, Pacquiao is a pay-per-view star, and so is Spence now, who's pound for pound the best fighter in the world. I don't see Crawford having, I don't want to take anything away from Crawford. I think Crawford is a terrific fighter, but I have never seen Crawford fighting a top 5 pound for pound fighter just like Errol Spence did tonight and put that kind of performance on the table. That's a signature win for Errol Spence. And Errol Spence deserves our recognition, not because he won, but the way he won. I mean, what he showed tonight was absolutely top level. It doesn't get better than that.
Richard, if you look at the welterweight class, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Adrian Broner, and Sean Porter, they've all faced each other. But there's one guy they haven't, and that is Spence. That seems to be very peculiar. Based on tonight, do you think any of those guys, or anyone at 47 that's realistic, would be less or more willing to face Errol?
You watch and see with Errol Spence, we have a new era started today, the Errol Spence era, just like we had the Mayweather era. This is the Errol Spence era. And you're going to remember tonight here in Dallas when I said that the Errol Spence era has officially started today. And in order for that to be an era, you need to have opponents. That was what Floyd Mayweather had. He had opponents. He had the lined up opponents, one after the other, and he beat one after the other. And some fighters, which pound for pound might be just as equally impressive or as equally as good as a Floyd Mayweather was. I'm thinking of a Andre Ward. He never had these opponents lined up, and as a result, he never really got where he could have gone because he didn't have the dance partners. Errol Spence, you just gave a list. Errol Spence has these dance partners, and he hasn't danced with either one of those yet. So I think he has a bright future as a star and as a pay-per-view star ahead of him.
Well, with that also said, I think activity is important. Is there any way he could fight twice more this year instead of just once more? That's kind of been an issue with Errol.
Well, when you are going to be, ideally, yes, but ideally what I like to do as well, in order to maximize these pay-per-view promotions, just like we've done with Floyd, I'd like to have a little bit more time to activate in-store activations to really make these events even bigger and, and so on. So, I mean, it's difficult when you are a star at that level to fight 3 times, let's be honest. Twice is really the way it is. But, now what we have March, could it be that he's fighting twice more? Maybe.
Richard, given all the guys that Steve just lined up, do you think anything could realistically give Errol a fight, given what you saw tonight?
That's a good question. you know, but there's always, in the end of the day, it's boxing, and you just never know what happens. And one might have the night of his life, and the other one might have a bit an off night. So you just never know. One punch can change it all. And from all of those guys he just listed, I could definitely give you some reasons why this guy, that guy, or this guy could win or should win, and so on. But after this performance tonight, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to bet against Errol Spence.
Richard, how confident are you that Pacquiao and Spence could be made next, like this year?
Well, you know, I was in the ring when they asked him the question, and he didn't say yes. He didn't say no either, so I think that's good. It was sort of like a maybe, but as I said, it's probably not going to be easy to find opponents. I mean, I don't think you're going to find so many who wants to, when Errol Spence is going to ask who's going to want to fight me next, you know, I think they're going to go like, I don't know. Well, I think that's definitely the case, but at the same time, you know, he is going to be where the money is. I think he established himself tonight with Fox behind him, with Jerry Jones behind him, with this whole promotion. He established himself tonight as a pay-per-view star, as the pay-per-view star next to Manny Pacquiao in the 147-pound weight class. And so I think that people going to want to fight him because he's going to be where the money is.
Spence versus Pacquiao, passing on the torch, pay-per-view fight.
Yeah, Spence wins, yes. And otherwise it might be the burning of the torch, so we don't know. I mean, look, Manny Pacquiao is still Manny Pacquiao, so that is not going to be, you can't bet against Manny Pacquiao. I mean, I mean, as a fan, I would love to see that fight. But I would love to see as well Manny Pacquiao against Keith Thurman. I have no problem with that. I think that's a huge fight as well. Or Errol Spence against Keith Thurman, or Spence against Porter. Or, I mean, you can sort of like mix and match. That's what I said before, the depth of the division, and they all can fight each other.
Well, if you can get along with Bob Arum, you can make the fight.
Well, who said I don't?
It's not a statement.
Yeah.
You can expedite that fight.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, there's a lot of good fights, and the fight with Crawford certainly, you know, is one of them.
You know, Bob's already said he's open to coming here and having Crawford Spence here at some point. Bob's already said this. Would that be something y'all would be open to?
Well, as I said, I think there's so many fights like right now within the, you know, within the PBC universe. I mean, look, we have these, whether we like it or not. I think these fights eventually will happen when they are so big that you're going to have a few million pay-per-view homes and things like that. You know, I mean, maybe us as hardcore fight fans, we want to see right now, today, tomorrow, next month, Crawford against Spence. That fight will happen, but it doesn't have to happen next, because I think there are other great fights which can happen and which, frankly, are going to be easier to be put together.
Was that Keith Thurman calling? Asking for next?
That was Manny Pacquiao. He said it's not a maybe.
Is there? Do you not have to make Spence Crawford soon?
Oh, now they're calling you.
Errol might move up to 154 soon. A lot of people.
Yes, I mean, there's great fights there as well. But, you know, I think he can still make 47. So I think that's the beauty with Errol Spence as well. They're going to be great fights for him at 54 as well. And who knows, maybe at 160 even. So, I mean, he's young, he's strong, he has... I think we all underestimated, at least I did. I knew he was strong and he was a difficult guy to beat, and his reach and his, you know, but his kills today really just like blew me away. That was beautiful to watch, and you could just see he had like fun in there. He really enjoyed it.
Richard, if you had to guess realistically, who would be the next welterweight to step up and say, hey, I want Errol, and make the fight happen, go through the whole thing, who do you think that would be?
I think there's I mean, this is like a bit overplay. I mean, Sean Porter, I'm sure, has no problem fighting Errol Spence, and nor does Keith Thurman. I mean, I know those guys. I promoted those guys for many, many years. So I know those guys are not afraid to fight Errol Spence. So whoever says different doesn't really know them. So they have no problem. I mean, they want to get paid. I mean, they're going to have to work out the right deal for whoever it is. But those fights are going to happen. I have no question about it. And, you know, for Manny Pacquiao, I mean, Spence is a difficult fight, but Keith Thurman is not an easy fight either. It's a difficult fight too. So, you know, so it's not like all these fights are not easy, and you don't know who's going to win, and so.
With this being the initial pay-per-view, what are your estimates for numbers on that?
You know, usually I would give you some sort of like an estimate, because what we've done in the past, like with HBO or with Showtime, we had actually fights we could compare it to. You know, based on like where do we stand on Wednesday, how many people have ordered it already, and then Thursday, and then Friday, and so on. So you sort of like see a trend. But since this was Fox's first pay-per-view, we don't have that comparison. We just know that it's going to be much bigger than we initially anticipated, and I think it is much bigger because the gate did very well. The movie theaters reported record numbers. The bars and restaurants, they did very well in all markets, in the urban markets, in the Anglo markets, and the Mexican markets. And you know, we saw the kind of ratings Fox was generating for their shoulder program. So now the question is, do these ratings of in the shoulder programs, do all these commercials they ran, all these promotions they did, does that convert to buys? And that I can't tell you. And anybody who tells you on a Saturday night after the fight that they have some indications about what the numbers are, they're lying. Because we're not going to know. We're probably going to get some indications maybe next Wednesday, Thursday from like the digital platforms, and then the cables usually takes like a week to 10 days.
Richard, let me ask you, Mikey Garcia was, you know, he fights for legacy. You know, he was attempting to become a 5-divisional champion. It's no secret he took the hardest way as far as fighting Spence. Do you feel that if he were to stay at 147 pounds, do you feel that he has better chances as far as beating a Thurman, Pac-Man, Crawford, and you know, making his dream come true?
I think that's an excellent question, because you're right. He didn't just move up and sort of like hand-picked a title to say, oh, I'm a 5-division world title holder. He moved up to face and challenge the most difficult, most dangerous, undefeated fighter at 147 pounds. So I think for that alone, he deserves a tremendous amount of respect. And I think that's a question you're going to need to ask him. If he would ask, if Mikey would ask my advice, I would probably think he should go back down to 140, even if he can, 135, because I think there are fights that can be made, attractive fights in those weight classes that can be made as well, big fights, you know, and I think this is this is like one of those moments. He dared to be great. It didn't work, and now, you know, we move on. Radio Rahim, all good? You're very quiet tonight. Oh, okay, sorry. Do you want to say anything, Brit? She did just an unbelievable job. I mean, Tom and TGB, I mean, they're like by far the busiest team. Like from one weekend to the other, like you're going to be on the road again, right? Exactly, it's amazing. No, great job, very well done. And it's not easy, you know, to have a card like this with all the logistics and all the people coming in. You saw the lineup of the world champions which were here. I mean, these fighters, everybody was here. Somebody's got to coordinate all of these details. There's so much work. So Brittany has an unbelievable staff and team and directs them, and, you know, make sure that everything runs smooth. And I mean, whether if it's from the medicals and of course I mean, it's just unbelievable. So really, let's give it up for her. Great job. Any other questions? Where do we stand? Did anybody check on? Are they here? No. Who? Spence. Okay, perfect.
Pacquiao's last fight was on Showtime pay-per-view, and
Yes.
Spence was on Fox pay-per-view.
Yes.
Who would be more likely to get a Pacquiao Spence?
Well, that's really a sort of like a question we have to discuss with PBC and with Al as well. I think there's some fights going to Showtime, some fights are going to Fox. There's so many. PBC is really the dominant player when it comes to boxing. You see the number of shows they do. I just talked about it. The number of champions they have. So there's definitely enough attractive matchups to satisfy the Fox audience, but satisfy the Showtime audience as well. And I think the same holds true for pay-per-views. You're going to see some of those pay-per-views on Showtime. Showtime has a tremendous pay-per-view staff. I mean, remember, we broke these records with Showtime. So Showtime pay-per-view knows what they're doing. They have a great team. And I think with Fox, they have a great team, and that was the first one. I mean, what they say, first impressions matter. Whoa, what a first impression Fox made. I mean, the production, everything, the shoulder programming. I mean, it's just. I was there at the ring, the cameras, these different cameras, and I'm sure I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure the experience to watch it at home. Fox knows how to put on big events. Fox puts on the Super Bowl, and to have a network which puts on the Super Bowl, to put on these super fights, I mean, how great for the sport is that? That is what elevates the sport. That is what makes boxing a mainstream sport again, when you have a free over-the-air network on board. Because you saw that like the Ray Mancini was here and some of the network television. That is what made them. And now, that was 30 years ago, and now we have it again with Fox. And with ESPN as well. I mean, ESPN does a great job as well. I mean, to have ESPN for boxing, the coverage they give, to have Fox, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's the best time to be in boxing. Yeah, do you have them? As I said, it looked like
47,525.
47,525. Pretty good. Huh?
Oh. Hey, Richard. You say 47,000.
47,000.
525.
525.
Richard, one question for you. As far as the Fox network, I mean, right now, college football, the NFL, I mean, it's king for Fox. Do you think that with, August, July, I mean, August all the way to December, it's pretty much dominated by football. Do you feel that boxing will take advantage in certain slots to get more exposure, especially from the, the NFL fans and, convert everything together?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's the beauty, that they have other great, their Fox, and they can use those as lead-ins. And so this is absolutely perfect. I mean, that's what you see. That's you follow that up with boxing. You have a great lead-in. So that is the beauty of Fox. Yeah, that's a disadvantage Showtime, for example, doesn't have. They bang, there is boxing, and you need to hope that the sports fans are going to watch. But with Fox, if you have college football or other sports games and use that as a lead-in and use the lead-in to promote, and you run commercials. By the way, for pay-per-view as well. Imagine if you can use those college games to promote a pay-per-view event. Yeah.
Heavyweight. What do you think about a fight between Anthony Joshua and Joe Joyce?
Oh, I love it. I love it, but I'm not going to do that because I have both. It's not yet, but eventually, yes. But I mean, come on, they're two Olympians. Both of them are doing very well. And so eventually that's going to happen. But come on, I mean, you've got to wait a little bit. And I have Tony Yoka as well, the Olympic gold medalist. So eventually I'd like to do the final of the Olympics, which was Joyce and Yoka won the gold medal in Rio. I like to do that rematch in the pros, but you want to make it at the point when there's going to be the money there.
That fight looks scary good. How fast do you want to move him along, and what's the plan for that?
Well, he has a great manager, and that's Shelley Finkel, and he's with Al Heyman as well. So Shelley has an amazing eye for talent, particularly in the heavyweight division. So we're going to, we're going to take our time, but step him up. I think he's going to be coming back on May 18th, and I think Joe Joyce is going to come back on May 18th as well. They're coming. Both fighters are coming.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
Move these steps to the other side. Anybody, please? Thank you. No one has
Hey, boys, come and help. No, my boys are coming. Hold on.
We got the Schaefer boys. Good boys.
They're not boys anymore. Young men.
Men, sorry.
I call them boys too. So.
I call my brothers boys.
Yeah, they're always going to be boys, right?
6'4" boys too.
Yeah. But the heavyweight, you're absolutely right. I mean, I get some questions for the heavyweights. What a great time for the heavyweights. I haven't seen it like that. So there's some great current champions, but some great young talent coming up as well. They were trying to leave. But you can't escape Kelly Swanson. Or you, exactly. You go and get him back, right?
I must.